Alright, and now that should be about enough, at least to get that start. Echo, cancel timer. Fortunately, I don't think that's going to get me all the way through. Even there, like up to here I have enough, but don't quite have enough there. And there I got myself epoxied. Oh wow, I've been at this for half an hour. This is quite a long video. There is definitely not going to be enough epoxy to go all the way around, but I'll see if I can at least get this one side done. So I think I've got at least that side. Fortunately, I won't be able to all the way around like that. It's interesting how much heat you get from the chemical reaction when I touch the epoxy. It's rather hot, definitely an exothermic reaction. Is after the chemicals combine, they release heat. Reactions like that tend to be quick and spontaneous, as in they happen by themselves, which is why you have a reaction like that in epoxy. If it's quick and it happens by itself, and the epoxy has a very reliable reaction that cures it, which means it changes its consistency, be kind of like a hard plastic from a liquid. I'm going to pause this video while I think about how to proceed. I don't like to change rather use the same glue all the way around, since that's not an option. I did find a tube of that silicone glue. Unfortunately, the nozzle glue near the nozzle dried up, so I can't get glue out there. In some ways, I think this is actually better than the epoxy, because I can really, mainly because I have plenty of it, I can really get it into those folds. Also, I have a little bit more, epoxy becomes solid kind of well, it depends on the epoxy. There's different periods of time. The epoxy that I was working with gets solid very quickly, and then you can't work with it. This glue has a more even transition. It doesn't happen as quickly. It also doesn't kind of happen almost all at once. Like the epoxy is kind of like 1 minute it's very flexible, and then like let's say 5.5, 6 minutes into working with it, it's still reasonably flexible, and then 6 or 7 minutes into working with it and it's like a rock. This has a much more even transition. And so now the idea is that this tape will help keep that epoxy, or in this case the silicone glue, in those folds where I want it. And so it's acting a little bit like a mold. Mold is a device that keeps something in place while it gets its shape. I might have actually played a little bit too much with that one edge there. Probably should have just, as soon as I put the tape on, just left it. Could always come back and trim it later. And now I can just let that, and just let that sit. And dry, and I should have effectively have an airtight seal going all the way around. So now I'm just gonna let that sit and dry, and don't touch. I think I can probably put a little bit of tape on this edge here, and maybe I might be able to still use this glue at least over the next day or two if I have a project. Alright, and that was a video on how to create an airtight layer around the folds of a filter. That's that black epoxy that you see here that I ran out of. And then that allows you to just use a single bead of another sealant to fix that to the housing, and you're all set.